Now, I want to talk about shape and voicing. All right. One thing I always recommend when you're practicing, experiment. The most important teacher you can have is yourself. Okay. You need to experiment. You need to constantly open up your imagination of what's possible. So I'm going to play some of this prelude in several different ways, just to show some possibilities here, okay? All right, now I'm going to play it differently. So that was different from the first time. What I'd recommend to all of you, when you sit down, once you've done this very disciplined practicing in rhythms, I highly advocate practicing with a metronome, not because I want you to be metronomic. It just helps get that internal pulse solidified. Once you have that, it's like a heartbeat. Our heart doesn't always beat at the same rate, right? It goes up, it goes down, depending on our excitement level. Same with music making. We don't want it to be metronomic, but we need it to have its heartbeat, to have its pulse underlying everything. So what I really encourage you all to do is play through the prelude 5 times in a row. Each time, try something different. Here's another thing that's fun to try, okay? I'm gonna play it all very legato, which is not something I ever would ultimately do, but in the privacy of my practice room, I do it. That's not how we're going to play it, but it's really interesting to do that. And then you go from that. What articulation, we want this music to really pop. We want it to feel so full of life. So you have to work hard to make that happen. Like I mentioned earlier, busy fingers and like really pulling the sound out of the piano. I'll demonstrate this in a couple of other places in this movement. But do think about that. Play through the whole prelude with 0 pedal. Ultimately, I like to add a little pedal here and there. A real challenge with this movement really is hand independence. And what I like to do, actually, is practice hands separately. And just so I make sure, you know, we're all either right or left-handed. I'm right-handed. So generally, I'll pay more attention to my left hand. But let me demonstrate for you, because, you know, we have a lot of voice imitation and then a whole lot of layered contrapuntal writing in this movement. All right, so in practice, I like to exaggerate that a little. Let me show you. I exaggerate in my practice, as I said I would, because it helps tune my ear and tune my muscle memory. You know, it's very interesting with muscle memory. This is where discipline comes into play. I don't like to admit it, but sometimes I'll be playing a Mozart concerto and I'm thinking about whether I'm gonna have a hot dog or a cheeseburger later, just for a moment in a performance. But because of being so disciplined, my muscles know what to do. And that's a big secret. I try not to divulge that. Another thing, practice technique that I like to do is, if you think about, I think about voice leading. So sometimes I'll play through this movement with phrasings every 2/16 notes. Listen. Every experimentation with how you practice opens up your imagination and helps discipline your muscles. I don't think Bach should be light and fluffy. So here would be light and fluffy of touch, all right? I'm not playing a harpsichord, I'm playing a piano. So, little arm weight happening. You see, my arm is down, the weight here, which helps give me control and helps the music, I think, pop out more. All right, as we go forward with this prelude, we're going to come to the B section. This is an ABA form, right? And the B section has a really whole different character. It's a little more gentle, a little more singing. So let me demonstrate the connection to the B section. Okay, so it's a little bit of a different world. I think of my touch when I get to the B section a little bit gentler, right? And then I'm constantly, always just thinking about shape. But I want to show you a couple of areas where it's a conversation really between the two hands. All right, listen to this for a second. The left hand is leading us to the next harmony, but the right hand is actually making that transition for us. Now here, the theme, the opening theme, but now in E minor, comes in the right hand. And then the left hand follows. We need to point that out to our listener, right? Here we go. And then back into this gentler world. In my opinion, we're not allowed to ever play the repeat of a phrase, even if it's down a whole step, the same way. It's just like speaking, just like speaking. We want it to be interesting, captivating, so our listener can't take their ear off of what we're doing because it's just so interesting. All right, now we come to a couple of sections that are just so inspired out of Bach. And we have options about how to shape them. And the section that I'm talking about is right after this. Okay, this is, I think, very much dictated by the left hand. And I don't think we're allowed to just play it like a machine. Use our left hand, really sing through it. Let the left hand guide us in bar by bar, right? And remember what I had said about that poise issue. Pay attention to your third beats. If I don't pay attention to my third beats here, this is what it'll sound like. Now I'm going to pay attention to my third beat. Makes a very big difference. we as performers can sometimes take for granted, because we know the piece of music so well, we can take for granted that we're actually really demonstrating it out to the listener and showing. When I'm playing this, you know what I want to be showing the listener? I'm like, listen to what happens. Right? So be very demonstrative about how you're shaping. All right, then there's a wonderful transition that comes up after this section that will bring us to a statement of the opening theme in E minor. This is a place that I've spent a lot of time exploring. How can I make this moment special? And I'll show you what I mean by this. Here's the section. So when I got to the E minor, I changed my touch. I changed my articulation. Why? Because it makes sense to me that suddenly it actually doesn't have that joy that the opening of the movement has. It suddenly is a little more reserved here. And what do you think about this section? What an opportunity and what a transition Bach has created here with this transition. So don't take it for granted, right? Let me play this one more time for you. So. And then we're back into this material for a final time that to me now is filled with joy. But again, don't make both parts of this phrase the same. And then by doing that, you're setting up this next passage that's going to bring us to a stopping place in the movement. All right, so let's see. I'll demonstrate. What a moment. It's incredible, right? And I don't think Bach was trying to say something here. This is not a moment that can be glossed over. It's very dramatic. And what I think it's really bringing us to this conclusive, final feeling of the development before launching back into the opening of the movement, which again is one of these magical moments where, you know, in any movement, a great example of this is Bach's Goldberg Variations, all right? Where when you hear the aria at the beginning of the Goldberg Variations, it sounds a certain way. It sounds vulnerable. It sounds gentle. It sounds innocent, right? If you think about you go through all 30 variations and you hear this aria again. It's different. Why is it different? Because we're different. Because we have sat and listened and experienced Bach's exploration with this theme through 30 variations, and then it comes back and the music sounds differently. So I think of that often with the recapitulation in this prelude, that after this very dramatic moment, to me, it's infused with even greater joy. Let me demonstrate this. Remember your third beat? What a transition, right? It's incredible. Now, when we come back to the recapitulation, this is an opportunity for us to be expressing and hearing and voicing this music in a new way, because there are a lot of options within the confines of good musical taste. There are options of articulation. Let me demonstrate for you. Right? You can maybe focus a little more on your left hand, and you should have fun exploring this and the such great variety of articulation and shape. And at the end of the day, when you get up and perform this piece, take a deep breath, because it's hard, but just allow yourself to trust all the work you've put into it, and then just enjoy speaking this music, enjoy the joy that is this music, the variety that is this music. And that's why it's important to put the hard work in, so that you can have that moment of being free and just expressing it. Now, one final thing I'd like to discuss in this movement, because it's always very challenging, is ending this movement, okay? You're going, and then you have to end it in a way that demonstrates, okay, the movement ended, right? So how do you do that? If we just end it in time, let me try that for you once, and you'll hear what I mean. I'm just gonna end it in time. I don't think so, right? We need to show that now the music is ending. So what I like to do is, over maybe the final 2.5 bars, let it start to calm down and wind down, right? So that we can, you know, it's music that is so vibrant like this. It just wants to keep going. And so we have to somehow put the brakes on that, which is not easy. By the way, this final statement here, what an incredible addition that he adds this left hand, these double stops, so to speak, in the left hand. And I always like to point them out because it's so interesting. So that's my idea about ending this movement. And I just encourage you all to be very disciplined in your practicing and to be explorers. Really just look for all of the possibilities. I've played this piece, oh my God, for decades. And every time I come back to it, I discover something new. Years ago, I was in Dubrovnik, and I heard a concert of the pianist Ivo Pogorelic, and I was sitting really close to him. And he launched into this A minor English suite, and I don't think I breathed or swallowed through the whole piece. It was so captivating. And so it inspired me to want to learn this piece.